Welcome to the Human Handbook podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Adam Tice. We're going to be talking about everything you need to know, but nobody's telling you about how to optimize your health, cultivate happiness, and biohack your way to peak performance. I've been in the clinic 12 years, and I'm stepping out of the clinic into the pod studio, bringing all the clinical pearls, all the foundational wisdom that you need to accelerate your health and accelerate your life. Here we go. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Human Handbook podcast. My name is Dr. Adam Tice, and welcome to today's episode. The episode is entitled The Principles of Nature Cure, the Principles of Naturopathic Medicine, the Principles of Healing. That's what I want to talk about today. This is super important. This is part of our Natural Foundation series, which is this first season of the pod. We're going to be laying the foundation that is prerequisite to optimizing health and supercharging the biology and really getting the breakthrough and cracking the health code so you can enjoy your life more. This is how you do it, guys. If you're interested in biohacking, achieving peak performance, peak potential, supercharging health, if you're trying to overcome chronic health issues that are holding you back from living your best life, then pay attention, because these foundational principles will give you the proper context with which then to make better decisions so that you can supercharge yourself and get better faster and overcome whatever you're trying to overcome in your health. So I want to talk about the principles today. And these are, there is nothing new to be said about the foundational principles of healing. I am not the first person, nor will I be the last to talk about this. Many people may say this in their own way or in different ways, and this message is as old as the hills, guys. This is hundreds of years old, thousands of years old, these basic principles. And these are the timeless component. These principles are timeless. They're always going to work. There's no expiration. And these are the things that are going to, to emancipate you from the broken sick care system and the loop that, that people get caught in with the healthcare system. And that's part of what my mission is to give you, some valuable insights and some practical, actionable wisdom and information on health and well-being so you can crack the code and really exit the matrix, guys. That's what I'm talking about, because like we talked about before, this is the paradigm shift, and this is the journey that we all make as we really go down the journey of life. And as you live longer and your body has been on earth longer, welcome to earth. You guys know what I'm talking about. You have to take care of your body, your temple. We have to care for this properly if we want to keep it healthy and really play the long game. And that's what I'm really most interested in doing. I'm passionate about helping people, CEOs, entrepreneurs, founders, business professionals, and regular people achieve this peak performance by supercharging their health and overcoming chronic issues, health issues. And this is the framework within which that happens. This is the framework within which we catalyze and accelerate the healing process. So there's principles that we want to follow, and I'm going to lay out these principles in just a minute. And these are the principles that we're going to need to bring about a healing and supercharge the biology and really activate that peak potential in the system to either prevent a chronic disease or overcome a chronic disease. We need to bring balance to all of the systems in the body. We need to know how to do that. We can't just enter blindly with no plan, with no framework, with no guiding principles to guide us. Would you start a business with absolutely no plan and no resources? It won't happen. I mean, maybe if you're really good and skilled, you might be able to get it off the ground. But we want to play the long game. We want to set ourselves up for success. And it really helps if we have some guiding principles and a framework within which to work. And that's why I think these principles are important. And the principles are, I'm going to list them out, and then we're going to go through and kind of shade in and color in. But the basic framework and the principles that we follow are this. You have to identify and remove the obstacles to cure. That means remove the obstacles in the way that are preventing health from happening. And that means a common example of that is the food that we eat. And this is the most common thing. People eating foods that don't digest, and then we get issues with digestion and inflammation, and then that unmasks or sets off the process of a disease process, depending on, you know, what your lifestyle is, what your constitution is, what your genetics are, what your karma is, all this kind of stuff mixed up. That all will influence an individual's susceptibility, but nonetheless, we have to identify and remove these obstacles to cure so that we can then cleanse and rejuvenate the blood and the lymph, so we can detoxify the body. We need to stimulate the vital force. Then we can give the body what it needs. We can start to nourish the body, the cells, the tissues, the organs. That's how we restore health. That's how it happens. Because to understand this, how to resolve or bring remedy to an imbalance, or or just to supercharge the system, if we're interested in activating the peak potential and achieving a peak performance and being really successful and high achieving and high performing in our life, you got to feel good and you got to have energy to actually do that. And you need to understand what are the primary causes of disease, and then you need to know the principles to follow to guide you, to optimize the health. So the primary causes of disease are, it's really simple, guys. Number one, lowered vitality. And this can be due to many things. It can be due to overwork, or lack of sleep, or improper biorhythm pattern. It can be due to any kind of excess in our lives, and that means different things for different people, different kinds of, any kind of overstimulation, or anything that's going to compromise the vitality of the system. This, over time, and we may be able to, the human system, again, depending on the individual, they might be some people can do this and have overwork and excess, and it's like nothing ever happens. Okay, that's a rare breed. That's maybe 1% of us. For the other 99% of us, we got to be mindful of this stuff. And I think most everybody can think of a time, or kind of sort of look back and see a time where you were overworking, or maybe overstimulated, or in some kind of excess in some dimension of your life. And you might be able to keep that up for a short while, but it's not a sustainable thing. And eventually most people are going to crash and burn and have to take some time out and recharge and regroup and get kind of reorganized. And that's how it goes. So we really want to take the middle path here and avoid the excesses, because number one, primary cause of disease is lowered vitality. And then the second thing that kind of leads into is the abnormal composition of the blood and the lymph. And this primarily has to do with improper dietary selections and wrong food combining, eating things and taking things into the body that don't digest well or that just are not nourishing the body. Especially when we start to get a lack of organic mineral salts and other essential nutritional elements, all the macros and the micros. Um, if that is deficient or insufficient or of inferior quality for too long, eventually the composition of the blood and the lymph will become compromised, and then that in turn is going to compromise the nutrition of the cells, the tissues, the organs, the systems, and eventually, again, depending on an individual's susceptibility, you know, that can cause imbalance in the system, because that in turn leads to an accumulation of a waste matter, of morbid matter in the blood. And this again, it affects the cellular energy. It affects the ability of a cell to metabolize and create energy and to detoxify itself and to properly and in an intelligent way function. The cell needs to recognize self from non-self. That's what cancer is all about. That's what autoimmunity is all about. Is this breakdown in the communication, and that stuff does not just happen overnight, guys. My friends, this is something, the disease process, it takes years to actually reveal itself. And part of what we're doing along this journey is becoming aware of these things and starting to develop a sensitivity in our body where we can recognize these things, and then knowing the primary causes of disease is lowered vitality, abnormal composition of the blood and the lymph, and leading to an accumulation of waste matter and basically a toxic burden in the system. This creates imbalance. So we need to be aware of this stuff so that we can employ our naturopathic principles and our nature cure principles, so we know how to navigate our way out of this. Either one, so you know your way to navigate out of a health issue, or better yet, if you can get ahead of this and keep yourself in the domain of prevention. And prevention and optimization really is it is the goal. That's the ideal place that we would like to be. Of course, that's not always the case. You know, many of my cases, many of my the people that I work with, a lot of folks have complex conditions that, again, it doesn't happen overnight, but over time, over 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that stuff accumulates in the body, and we need to understand how to bring remedy to that, how to bring balance to the digestive system, to the immune system, to the cardiovascular and circulatory system. All these systems need to be properly cleansed, and they need to be properly nourished so that the communication flow and the information flow can happen from cell to cell, so we don't get any breakdown in communication. Because the breakdown in communication, that is where the imbalance begins. That is where the dis-ease process begins. And how we navigate our way out of that is using the guiding principles here. And the first principle is to identify and remove any obstacles to cure. And this, again, this most commonly means on the food level, we want to look at what things are happening every day. What things are happening every single day, and where can we identify and remove obstacles to cure? And the things that are happening every day are mostly the lifestyle things. They're in the domain of diet and nutrition. They're in the domain of relationships and they're in the domain of profession and work. I mean, that's where we spend most of our time. And so those are the places where I would start to look and see, at home and at work and eating, is there anything there that I would say is causing you to drive with the brakes on, that's just slowing things down? We want to identify those things and remove those things. Just a little bit more of a kind of a concrete example of the way this might actually look is, one of the things I do with all of my people when I onboard them is I identify their food intolerance. I identify what foods are not digesting in the system, and we remove those. We identify those things and remove those things and get people on a balanced therapeutic diet immediately, because when you do that, everything starts to get better. You start to immediately improve the quality of the blood in the lymph. You start to begin to empower the body and enable the body to detoxify and cleanse itself better and more effectively, more efficiently. And then the body can uptake nutrients, uptake vitamins and minerals, the things that are going to nourish it. Then we can stimulate the vital force. This is how it goes, guys. These are the formulas. Once we've identified obstacles to cure, food intolerance, immediate life stressors or obstacles like that, we identify those and remove those things. So scan through your life and see, are there obvious obstacles to cure in your life, and what can we do to bring remedy to that? That's where we start. Then we can move to the second step, where we're going to start to improve the quality of the blood in the lymph. This is where we clean the house. We clean the house. We have to, and these steps kind of merge together. When we say improve the quality of the blood in the lymph, that is also kind of dovetailing and leading into the third principle of detoxification. There's not a black and white distinction between these principles, guys. They kind of lead or bleed or transition into one another. And it's not necessarily a linear thing that's happening. I mean, these things all might be happening at once. We may be focusing a little bit more heavily on removing obstacles to cure and detoxifying the blood in the lymph in the early stages of clinical care. Usually a lot of the focus is there. And, as we move through the healing journey, you'll find that we put more focus on, one or another of the principles, but generally they're all synergizing and happening together to create a vertical healing process. It's not a linear horizontal process, guys. We want to do all these things so we can activate that vertical energy and elevate the health and elevate your life and get you feeling good, increase the cellular energy, get you sleeping better, get the overall energy improved and optimized and supercharged. As a side effect, things start to improve in your life. Your mood improves, your outlook improves, anxieties and the mild depressions that are often kind of playing in the background, that stuff starts to clear up. And then when you're looking through a new lens, when you're feeling better, you're digesting better, you're starting to get a little bit better energy, anxieties and depression start to lift, you start to make better choices and different choices. And what actually happens is you open up a set of possibilities and potentials that was once unavailable to you. And this is the quantum part of it that is the most important, and that's why I'm spending some time here in these early episodes of our pod, because this is the Human Handbook content. This is the stuff that we need to know that nobody ever told us growing up. And if you're fortunate, then you heard this or learned this along the way, at least a little bit, and you have some cognition of what I'm talking about. And you've been able to kind of employ some of this and see how this actually works. But this is how the journey goes. we've identified and removed the obstacles to cure. We start to improve the quality of the blood and the lymph. And again, these all are leading together, the digestion and the detoxification process. All of that, again, it's not a black and white distinction there. Those all lead and connect to one another. The digestive process actually, to me, means the process of digestion, absorption, assimilation, and elimination. At the cellular level and the greater systemic level, this has to be happening. Otherwise, you're going to set yourself up for an imbalance, and a dis-ease is going to be more likely to happen in that kind of a system. Again, we want to open up the set of new potential, of new possibilities, where peak potential and health optimization become the realities and the possibilities that we're choosing from. That's what we're talking about. So these first three, usually that's kind of the first phase of clinical care a lot of times, is spending some time doing this so that we can then move forward into the fourth step of nourishing the body and giving the body what it needs. And this might mean certain vitamins, minerals, cofactors, nutrients, macros, micros, trace minerals, trace elements, the whole range of that. But again, we can't jump ahead and kind of sort of cheat our way and jump ahead without doing that prerequisite foundational work of identifying, removing obstacles to cure, improving the quality of the blood and the lymph, and detoxifying. Because that's the cleaning of the house that has to happen, so that the assimilation and the absorption can be optimized. We need to cleanse the mucosa. We need to cleanse and heal any kind of leaky gut that is happening, where there are gaps in the in the intestine, and we will get up, different proteins will leak through there because of a micro inflammations that are happening in the digestive tract. And guys, think about the digestive system. Just think about the skin, for example, like on your cheek. It's really, really thin tissue we're talking about, guys. And just for example, just if you bite your cheek or something like that, and you leave it alone, that will heal up in like 24 hours. It will heal fast. But if there is continual insult to that tissue, it won't heal, and it will become a site of inflammation, which the initial stages of inflammation are a desirable thing. That is your body's way of magically healing itself. It's that prolonged, sustained, continued, unnatural inflammation that eventually will lead or increase the likelihood that some kind of infection or disease process can take hold. So just to say, the gut has to be healed first, so that we can then move on through our process of nourishing the body and giving the body what it needs, so we can improve the cellular energy, so that we can get the nutrients into the cell, deliver those nutrients to the cell, so that our mitochondria can work efficiently and we can oxygenate the cells and get those nutrients, get that transport chain going, so we can explode the cellular energy in the mitochondria. And that's your cellular energy, guys. That's the energy that we need to improve. And we have to nourish the body. We have to give the body and minerals are the number one thing that we have to have on board. And I'm talking about magnesium, calcium, potassium, sodium, phosphorus, all the big ones, but all the little ones too, vanadium and boron and strontium and all of the, 80 odd trace minerals. We need all of those. And the thing is, we have to bring those in. Even if we're eating organic food and the cleanest diet around, we do that to avoid the poisons and the pesticides and the commercial chemicals and the synthetics. Remember, there's 80,000 plus synthetic chemicals listed, and that's all been within the last 100 years, and that's foreign to your native biology. It does not know what to do with it. So obviously that kind of goes with some of the first three principles of reducing the toxic load, but we need to eat the clean food. And I'm talking about animal-based and plant-based. I take a middle road approach and I take a personalized approach with that diet. And there's no cookie cutter answer with how you nourish someone, how you nourish someone best. How do you nourish someone? It depends on a lot of stuff. It depends on their personality. It depends on their lifestyle. It depends on their will. It depends on their constitution. It depends on their biochemical individuality. It depends on their age. It depends on a lot of stuff. So there is no cookie cutter blanket diet answer. Diet is a customized, personalized thing that's going to be a little bit different for everybody. And even for the same person, through the seasons or through the seasons of the year or through the seasons of your life, you will find that your needs, your dietary needs and your nutrient requirements change. A 35 or 40-year-old's nutritional requirements are very different than a 50, a 55 or 60-year-old nutrient requirements. The requirements for a male are different than a female. This is just the biology of the whole thing. And we got to know what is going to nourish our body so we can optimize the health and supercharge the biology. Now we're really getting going. Now we have set the stage really for peak performance, and now we can really move into the higher dimensions of the naturopathic principles, these nature cure principles. And the fifth principle is to stimulate the vital force. And this first begins with acknowledging and recognizing and acknowledging and appreciating the fact that there is some kind of supreme intelligence that is highly ordered and intelligent and magnificent, that is operating inside you, that is animating, that is the life force inside you, is that thing that enlivens the cellular energy, that brings the breath into the human being, that first breath of life. The breath is the first thing to come and the last thing to go. This is the life force that makes that happen. So we need to acknowledge and recognize and honor that and appreciate that, so that that is how that actually is activated. And we can participate in this process. There are tools, there are modalities, there are things that we can do that will facilitate this process and help this happen. Homeopathic remedies do this. Hydrotherapy does this. Certain classes of tonic herbs do this. Therapeutic breathing does this. Ice baths do this. Many, many, many things do this. What is the proper prescription? That depends on who we're talking to. There is no right answer for how do you stimulate the vitality, but these are just a few of the ideas that we need to really understand to make this happen. And then finally, the final principle and where we really are headed here is, again, acknowledging and recognizing, honoring, appreciating, respecting, and really calling in that higher power and establishing that oneness, that connection to God. And I'm talking about, we can do this through prayer. We can do this through meditation. There are many, many, many strategies and techniques and methods to do this. All the mystic traditions have given us tools to do this. The yogic sciences and the Vedic sciences from ancient India are a treasure trove of techniques and modalities and substances and methods that are all personalized to the individual. Because that's one thing that we know. The idea here is, and the main concept here is, yes, we need to follow our guiding principles. Yes, we need to understand the primary causes of disease so that we can properly employ our nature cure principles. And that is how we optimize health, how we overcome chronic disease, how you restore balance to the body. You got to give the right medicine to the right person at the right time. That's the real specialty. That is the real specialty, and that is what will activate and enliven your biology and assist you in bringing yourself to lead a healthier, a happier, and ultimately a more successful life. That's the download for today's episode, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. I think this is a good place to pause for right now. You may need to go back and listen to this whole thing or parts of this again to have this sink in, because again, this is important. These foundational understandings, these natural foundations are the prerequisite to really getting the breakthrough so that you can be happier, healthier, more successful in your life and everything that you're doing. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Human Handbook podcast. My name is Dr. Adam Tice. You guys have a great day. Thank you so much for being here. And be sure to tune in next week where we're going to be talking more about everything you need to know, but nobody's telling you about how to optimize your health, cultivate happiness, and biohack your way to peak performance. Adios for now, guys.